Hi, it's Grandma Karen. You have thread on your bobbin. Now let's thread the top and the bobbin of your machine. Today we are talking about the Bernina 802. Before we begin, let's talk safety. If I work near the needle, I do one of the following. I move my foot pedal away from my foot, or I unplug the foot control, or I unplug the machine, which turns the machine off. Your presser foot needs to be in the up position before we begin threading the top of the machine. You have seen this stitch note before. The presser foot must be in the up position when threading the top of the machine to ensure the thread goes into the tension discs. We will do a little experiment with this at the end of the lesson to help you understand. We talked about cross-wound thread and stack thread in our last lesson. Review lesson 7 if you have forgotten what the two types of threads and spool pins are. Your machine only has a vertical spool pin. I'll put my stack thread here. If you have cross-wound thread, you can try it here, but you may need to use a thread stand. From the spool, the thread will go through this rear thread guide on the back of your machine. You may have to stand up to do this thread guide. So you're going to hold the thread between both hands and you're going to put this underneath the thread guide and just pull up. Then you're going to put the thread into the groove, this groove on the top of your machine. It's going to go through the tension discs that are right here. Here is a close-up of threading the top of the machine. The pink arrow is pointing to the tension discs inside the machine. Notice how the thread is coming off the spool. The thread should be coming from the back of the spool. The thread goes over the front of the machine and then it goes down this thread guide, down to this thread guide right here. It goes under the thread guide and you pull up on it and there's a little spring in there, and then it goes up this groove all the way to the back, and then you pull it down this side and it catches in the take-up lever. Now it goes down to the thread guide on the needle. Here's a close-up with the thread drawn on with a marker. The thread goes down, then up, then down. Here's a close-up of the take-up lever. Remember the take-up lever? We learned about it in lesson 5. The take-up lever needs to be in its highest or in its up position when we thread the top of the machine. You just turn your hand wheel towards you until it's at its highest or up position. Now look at the thread guide on the needle bar. The thread slides in from the left side where the green arrow is pointing. You will need scissors to cut the thread before threading the needle. There are many types of scissors. The scissors in the left photo are fabric cutting scissors. Notice that all of these have a piece of yarn tied to the handle. You should not cut thread or paper or do crafts with fabric scissors. Everyone in my house knows not to use these. Cutting paper or thread with fabric scissors makes them dull, and then they will not cut fabric. They are expensive, so don't use them to cut thread. The middle photo shows small embroidery and school scissors. If they are sharp, they will work well to cut thread. The right photo, it has standard scissors on it. Great for cutting paper or doing crafts. Some of these will also be good for cutting threads. The left photo shows cutting the thread on the diagonal. The right photo is of the needle. I wet my finger with my mouth. You could do this in the sink if that's too gross for you. Then you wet the back of the eye of the needle. The spit or water on the back of the needle helps draw the thread into the needle. Hold the thread with your thumb and index finger. Have about a ½ inch of thread sticking out. Not too much of the thread or it will droop down. Push the thread through the eye of the needle. Sometimes it is easier to see the eye if the presser foot is on. It gives a silver or white background behind the eye. As the thread goes into the eye, continue to push your thumb and finger to the back of the needle and grab hold of the thread. Pull it out about 4 to 6 inches. The thread should not be wrapped around the needle like the photo on the left. This happens sometimes. Pull the thread down a little and let it go back into the correct position so it is coming straight off the needle, like the photo on the right. The thread tail should be coming from the back of the eye of the needle. There are other ways to thread the needle, and we will talk about them in our next lesson. I'm using my hand wheel to put the needle down so it's easier to thread that guide. And I'm going to put my thread between my two hands, take the tail side and tuck it behind that guide right there. Now watch me thread the needle. I cut the end of the thread on a diagonal like that. I'm going to wet the back of my needle. And then I'm going to hold my thread between my thumb and my index finger with about a ½ inch of the thread sticking out. I'm going to brace my hand against the machine so my hand is steady and I push the thread through the eye. But first I'm going to take this presser foot and I'm going to put it down because We don't need to worry about going in the tension discs anymore. We're past the tension. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to put my hand up there and I'm going to go into the eye of the needle. Sometimes it takes more than once. And as it goes in there, I'm going to take my fingers and I'm going to push them back and pull on that thread so that I don't accidentally pull it back out. If your thread is too thick, it may not fit in the eye of the needle. We will talk about needles more in our next lesson. So I can show you on this giant needle a little bit easier than showing you on the machine. I took my thread, and this is a bigger thread, so hopefully you can see this, and I've wet the back of my needle, cut this on the diagonal, I put it in there, and then I let my fingers go around to the back and grab a hold of it and pull it at least a little bit so that I can let go and then pull it with my other hand. And that's how you thread the needle. Let's do our experiment with tension. Put the presser foot up. Pull the thread towards you. See how easily it pulls? Now we're going to put the presser foot down, and when I pull on the thread, it is tighter. This is because the tension discs are closed. This keeps a nice even tightness on the top thread. When the foot is up, the thread can go between the tension discs. If the foot is down, when we thread the tension area, the thread may sit on top of the discs instead of going between them. You would have terrible stitches if this happened. Putting the thread on the bobbin is called winding the bobbin. Putting the bobbin in the machine is called threading the bobbin. The bobbin goes into a bobbin case, like this. There are two kinds of bobbin cases. Some machines have what is called a drop-in bobbin case. Your machine has what is called a removable bobbin case, like this. Your bobbin will have to be threaded into the bobbin case. In other words, the thread needs to follow a certain pathway to work correctly. The bobbin case also has a tension on it. It is controlled by a little screw. If your bobbin case is inside the machine, you will have to take it out. Open the bobbin case cover right there. Lift this little latch that's right here on your bobbin case. See how I lifted that up? And then I grab a hold of that and I pull the bobbin straight out. As you hold the latch open, it prevents the bobbin from falling out. If you let the latch close, the bobbin will now come out. Let go of the latch and let the bobbin fall into your hand. Do not rip this thread out of here. Do it gently and slowly, or you can even cut the thread. Lay the bobbin on the table or in the palm of your hand. Flip the bobbin over until it forms a Q. Q for quality stitches. Hold the bobbin case with the whole side up facing you. Put the bobbin into the bobbin case. The bobbin should still be forming a Q with the bobbin and the thread. Turn the bobbin so the side is facing towards you. Find the little slit in the side. The pink arrow is pointing to the slit on this bobbin case. In the photo, you can see that I have pulled the tail of thread into this slit. Notice that my thumb is holding the bobbin so it does not spin. This makes it easier to thread the bobbin case. The left photo shows the thread has now been pulled up until it stops. The red dashed line shows the thread under the metal spring. The right photo shows the thread is pulled to the right until it is coming out of the hole. Leave about 4 to 6 inches of tail of thread coming out of the bobbin case. To put the bobbin case into the machine, hold the bobbin case by the open latch. Put the bobbin into the hook area. See the post that is in the machine? The green arrow points to it. The center hole in the bobbin goes into this post. Your bobbin case has a little finger on it. The finger is pointing up. The blue arrow points to it. The latch is pointing to the left side. Place the bobbin case in your hand with the hole facing up. Drop the bobbin into the bobbin case. Make sure that it's still forming a Q. Turn the bobbin case to the side. While holding the thread with your finger so it won't spin, slide the thread into the slit on the side. Gently pull up until it stops, and then pull it to the right until it goes into that hole. This is the tension, so when you pull on there, you want to pull it gently towards the back. Do not pull it or yank it this way because that can affect the tension. Hold the bobbin case by the open latch. Point the finger up and put the bobbin case onto that post that's in there. You should hear it click as the bobbin case goes into place. Sometimes it doesn't make that sound, so you need to jiggle your finger on here to make sure that it is in there tightly. Or you may have to move your hand wheel up and down a little bit, back and forth, rocking it back and forth to make sure that that's in there correct. If this is not in here correctly or tightly, it's going to fall out when you start to sew. Use the manual that came with your machine for photos of how to thread your machine if you've forgotten. Now it's time to do your homework. Show your mentor that you can do the following things. Properly thread the top of the machine going through all the guides and tension. Properly thread the bobbin case and thread the needle. 1. Place thread on the correct spool pin. 2. Does the presser foot need to be up or down for threading the top of the machine? A dull needle, a machine full of lint, and a machine needing oil can cause bad stitches. Next time we will learn a little about sewing machine needles. We will take out the old needle and replace it with a new needle. All sewing machines need to be cleaned of lint and dust. We will learn to clean and oil your machine. See you next time. And here's a note for the mentor. For our next lesson, you will need the following: a soft brush to clean the machine, sewing machine oil, sewing machine needles, universal size 80-12 are good, thread, cotton-covered polyester or all-purpose thread, or 50-weight cotton are best. You may have the supplies already, but if not, you can buy them at fabric stores or online. Thank you for helping someone learn to sew.